66. There is a special kind of confidence that comes from being completely catastrophically wrong. S266. And nowhere is that confidence more on display than in the world of complaints that should never have been filed, spoken aloud, or thought in the first place. 666. Today we are counting down 44 real complaints from real people who looked at the universe, disagreed with it, and decided to make that everyone else's problem. Buckle in. 66. Because by the time we reach number 1, the earlier entries will feel like acts of pure genius by comparison. Number 44. A hotel guest checked in, got settled into their room. 66. And then called the front desk to lodge a formal complaint. The complaint? The ocean was too loud. Not a leaking pipe. Not a noisy neighbor. The ocean. The ancient, planet-defining. 66. 4-billion-year-old body of water that was there long before the hotel, long before the guest, and will be there long after both have turned to dust. The ocean was making ocean sounds. 66. And someone felt that warranted a phone call. The front desk, to their eternal credit, did not simply hang up, but they should have. Number 43. A restaurant received a 1-star review because the food was too hot. Not spicy, temperature hot. S266. The reviewer explained that they had burned their tongue because the dish came out of the kitchen, and I want you to really absorb this, freshly cooked. 66. The meal had been prepared moments before it arrived. At a restaurant, which is the entire arrangement. Of 66. They wanted freshly cooked food served at a temperature that suggested it had been sitting in a parking lot since Tuesday. Number 42. 66. A gym member complained to management that the other members at the gym were too fit, and that this made them feel uncomfortable. The gym, for context, 66, is a facility specifically designed to make people more fit. It is the one place on Earth where encountering a fit person is the most statistically predictable outcome imaginable. 66. Complaining about fit people at a gym is like walking into a library and filing a grievance because there were books. Number 41. 66. A tourist visiting a famous waterfall submitted a formal complaint to the park authority because the waterfall was wet. They had walked close to get a better look and gotten misted. The complaint used the word unexpectedly. There is no world in which the word unexpectedly belongs in the same sentence as waterfall was wet. None. 0. 66. The dictionary itself would like a word. Number 40. A passenger on a cruise ship complained that the ship was on the water. More specifically, S266. They complained that the rocking motion of the vessel was caused by waves, and they wanted to know if the captain could avoid them. 66. The Atlantic Ocean has approximately 41 million square miles of surface area. The request was for the captain to navigate around the waves. On the ocean, aboard a ship. 66. This is a sentence I have typed with my actual hands. Number 39. 666. A coffee shop received a complaint because the cafe was too coffee-scented. The reviewer wrote that the overwhelming smell of coffee inside the building had ruined their experience. 66. The building in question was, by design definition and business license, a place where coffee is roasted, brewed, and sold continuously throughout the day. 66. What exactly were they expecting to smell? Lavender, fresh pine, the absence of the very product that caused the establishment to exist. Number 38. 66. A guest at a bed and breakfast complained that breakfast was served too early in the morning. The breakfast, specifically, was served at breakfast time. 66. The guest had booked a bed and breakfast, arrived at a bed and breakfast, S266, and then expressed genuine outrage that the breakfast component of the bed and breakfast was occurring during morning hours. The audacity here is not even the complaint itself. 66. It is the certainty, the calm, confident certainty that this was someone else's fault. Number 37. 66. A visitor to a national park complained that there were too many trees blocking the view of the forest. Let that settle for a moment. They wanted to see the forest, but the trees. 66. The individual components that collectively constitute a forest were in the way. They wanted, as best anyone could interpret, a forest with fewer trees. A forest-adjacent clearing. 66. A conceptual forest. Be honest, have you ever experienced a complaint so circular that it folds back on itself and becomes a different kind of brilliant? Number 36. 66. A diner at a seafood restaurant complained that their fish tasted like fish. Not bad fish. Not overcooked fish. Fish that tasted, authentically and accurately, like fish. 66. They wanted the restaurant to know that this was unacceptable. 266. The one-star review they left recommended the restaurant do something about the fishy taste. This is the culinary equivalent of visiting a paint store and complaining that everything smells like paint. 66. Number 30. 5. A customer at a car wash complained that their car got wet during the process. The wash, which is marketed, named, and sold as a service that applies water to a vehicle. 666. Had applied water to their vehicle. The customer acknowledged that they had brought the car in for a wash. The customer acknowledged that a wash involves water. 666. The customer nonetheless felt that the wetness of their car was a service failure. It somehow gets worse from here, I promise you that. Number 34. 66. A hotel guest complained that the mirror in the bathroom made them look too realistic. They did not want to see themselves without flattering lighting. 66. The complaint specifically requested that the hotel install more forgiving mirrors in all bathrooms. Mirrors, which are by their nature accurate reflections of the physical world. 66. Had been drafted into a dispute about self-image, and the hotel was expected to resolve it. Number 33. 66. A moviegoer at a cinema complained that the film they purchased a ticket to see contained actors. SS 2066. They had paid to watch a movie and were surprised and irritated that people appeared on screen portraying characters. What the ideal alternative experience would have looked like is unclear. 66. A blank screen, a PowerPoint. The void. Number 32. A parent complained to a school that homework required their child to think. 66. The specific phrasing in the formal complaint was that the assignment was too mentally demanding. The assignment was reading comprehension for a 12-year-old at a school. 66, which is an institution specifically built around the process of mentally demanding activities slowly becoming less demanding over time. That is the whole mechanism. That is how brains work. 66. And somehow this required a letter. Number 31. A yoga retreat received a complaint because the silence during meditation was too quiet. S2066. The guest found the quiet uncomfortable and wanted background noise. When they were told that silence was intentional, that it was in fact the product being offered, they requested a refund. 66. They had paid for a silent retreat, attended the silent retreat, experienced silence, and then complained that silence had occurred. 66. At this point we are no longer in the realm of bad reviews. We are in philosophy. Number 30. A grocery store received a formal complaint that bananas were yellow. 66. Not that they were overripe or underripe. Yellow. The complainant felt the color was too bright and asked whether the store could stock a more neutral-toned fruit. 66. The bananas were performing their one visual function with complete accuracy and were penalized for it. Number 29. A customer at a bakery complained that the bread was baked. 66. They had wanted fresh bread, but did not want the bread to have been subjected to heat. They described the crust as overly cooked on the outside. This is a crust. This is what a crust is. 66. The Maillard reaction, the foundational chemical process that turns dough into bread, had done exactly what it has done since the invention of fire. 66, and was issued a formal complaint for doing so. Number 28. A theme park guest filed a complaint that the roller coaster was too exciting. 66. They had ridden a ride designed and marketed as an intense, high adrenaline experience, and then reported that it had caused elevated heart rate and feelings of nervousness. 66. The theme park's response to this complaint is not recorded, but one imagines a very long pause before anyone picked up a pen. Number 27. 66. A traveler complained to an airline that the plane had to fly through clouds. They wanted the pilot to fly around them. All of them. The clouds that, at altitude 666, constitute the atmosphere through which planes travel by definition. They submitted a request in writing asking whether there was a cloud-free route available. 66. There was not a cloud-free route available. There will never be a cloud-free route available. The sky contains clouds. This is the arrangement. Number 26. 66. A diner complained that a restaurant's pasta was too Italian. They were dining at an Italian restaurant, and they felt that the authenticity of the cuisine was off-putting. Su 66. The restaurant had committed the unforgivable act of making traditional food in a traditional way in a restaurant named after the culinary tradition from which it originated. 66. And someone drove home and left a review about it. Number 25. This is where we take a small turn. 666. Because the following entries begin to involve not just ignorance of reality, but an escalating belief that the world owes people things it has never agreed to provide. 666. A customer called a bookstore to complain that a book they did not like had been published. Not that the bookstore sold it. That it existed. Suited 66. They wanted to know who they could contact to have the book removed from existence. The bookstore employee, to their eternal credit, did not simply end the call, though they should have. 66. Number 24. A parent called a toy company to complain that their child's toy required batteries that were not included. This is unremarkable until you learn that the packaging said, 66. In large print, batteries not included. They had read the packaging. They understood the packaging. They were calling anyway. 666. Because they felt the warning should not apply to them specifically. Number 23. A guest at an outdoor wedding complained about the sun. Not that it was unexpectedly hot. 66. They had been told it would be warm. They simply felt that for an outdoor event, held in summer, the sun was an imposition. 66. They pulled the coordinator aside during the reception to ask if there was any way to reduce the sun exposure, while standing outside, in July, at a ceremony they had attended by choice. 66. Number 22. A passenger on a long-haul flight complained that the flight was long. The flight between two continents separated by thousands of miles of ocean had taken several hours. 66. And the passenger wanted the airline to address this. The airline has not, to date, resolved the issue of geography, but the complaint remains on file. Number 21. 66. A homeowner in a coastal town complained to their local government that the sea level had risen and gotten closer to their house. This would be a reasonable concern. 66. Except that their follow-up demand was that the government instruct the sea to move back, not fund a seawall, not offer relocation assistance, instruct the sea, in writing, if possible. 66. Would you like to know how the sea responded? It did not. Number 20. A customer at a pet store complained that the fish were underwater. They had peered into the tank, 66, seen the fish swimming beneath the surface, and felt that this was poor display practice. They wanted the fish closer to the top of the tank. The fish, 666, operating on approximately 400 million years of evolutionary programming, declined to comply. Number 19. A reviewer gave a campground 1 star because it was located in nature. 66. There were bugs, there were sounds from animals, there was dirt. The reviewer wrote that the campground felt like being outside, and that this had significantly affected their comfort. 66. The campground is, structurally and legally, outside. It is camping. The outside part is not a variable. Number 18. 66. A customer complained to a smartphone company that their phone screen cracked when they dropped it onto concrete. The phone had a glass screen. The concrete was concrete. 66. Gravity was present. These three elements combined to produce a predictable physical outcome. The complaint used the word spontaneously. Nothing about this was spontaneous. 66. Everything about this was Newton. Number 17. A library patron filed a formal complaint that the library was too quiet. They found the silence oppressive. When asked to clarify, 66. They admitted they had known the library would be quiet. They simply felt that by this point in history, libraries should have dated the concept. The concept of the library, 66. A place for quiet study and reading, is approximately 3,000 years old. The patron wanted it revised, in their preferred direction, without specifying what that direction was. 66. Number 16. A customer contacted a candle company to complain that their candle had melted during use. They had lit the candle. The candle, being wax, had melted around the wick. 66. As candles do, as candles have done since their invention, as the entire mechanism of a candle requires. The complaint described the melting as a defect. The candle was working perfectly. 66. It was, by every measure, an excellent candle. The complainer had simply expected fire without physics. Number 15. 66. A guest at a vineyard complained that the wine they purchased tasted like grapes. They had toured a vineyard, watched the winemaking process, attended a tasting, purchased wine. 66. Opened the wine, and then noted with disappointment that the product, derived entirely from fermented grapes, reminded them of grapes. 66. The sommelier who received this feedback has presumably never fully recovered. Number 14. A tenant complained to their landlord that their apartment was too apartment shape specific. 66. They found the rectangular rooms limiting and wished the living space had more organic dimensions. The apartment was built inside a rectangular building using standard construction. 66. The laws of architecture, load-bearing physics, and modern construction had collaborated to produce a rectangle. The tenant felt this was negotiable. Number 13. 66. Here is where we enter territory that borders on the genuinely astonishing. A customer complained to a rainforest eco lodge that it rained. They had booked accommodation in a place named 66 in the title, a rainforest. The brochure had mentioned rainfall. The destination averages 200 inches of rain per year. The customer was shocked and upset by the presence of rain, 66, in the rainforest, where they had chosen to go, and they wanted compensation. Number 12. 66. A shopper complained to a farmer's market that the vegetables were dirty because they had come from the ground. The carrots, having been grown in soil, as all carrots are, 66, had traces of that soil on them. The shopper wanted to know why the market was selling dirty produce. The vegetables were dirty because that is how they begin. Before cleaning. 66. At the source. Before the cleaning that happens before they reach you, these were at the source. Number 11. 66 in the Galaxy S266. A customer called a mountain resort to complain that the mountain was in the way of their view. They had booked a mountain resort, traveled to the mountain resort, looked out their window, 66, and found that a mountain was visible. A large portion of the mountain, specifically, was very visible. They wanted a room with less mountain at the mountain resort. Number 10. 66. We are in the final stretch now, and I want you to prepare yourself, because the remaining entries require a level of intellectual composure that not everyone can maintain. Sistuk 66. A customer complained to a solar panel company that their panels stopped generating electricity at night. Solar panels, which convert sunlight into electricity, 66, had ceased to convert sunlight into electricity during the hours when there was no sunlight. The customer demanded an explanation. The sun, they felt, should have made arrangements. 66. Number 9. A visitor to a museum of natural history complained that the dinosaur skeletons were dead. They had hoped to see live dinosaurs, 66, and felt the museum had been misleading by not clarifying this up front. The dinosaurs have been dead for approximately 66 million years. The museum, 66, which is called a Museum of Natural History and which displays artifacts from natural history, had not, it was felt, done enough to manage expectations. Number 8. 66. A customer complained to a geography app that a mountain they were hiking was too steep. The app had displayed the elevation accurately. The trail map had shown the gradient. The mountain, 66, which is a geological formation shaped by tectonic forces over millions of years, had not consulted the customer before adopting its slope. 66. The customer wanted the app company to address this. The mountain remains at the same angle. No one has called it back. Number 7. 66. A parent complained to a school science teacher that gravity was presented as fact and that their child had been made to feel that falling objects was non-negotiable. They wanted an alternative perspective taught alongside the standard one. 66. The alternative perspective they suggested was not specified. The teacher reportedly stared at the ceiling for a period of time that colleagues described as considerable. Number 6. 66. A customer complained that a mirror maze they had paid to enter was confusing. The mirror maze, which is described in all marketing materials as disorienting labyrinthine experience, 66, had disorientated them. They had paid to be confused. They had entered the confusion. The confusion had happened. They wanted their money back because the confusion had been too confusing. 60. To be honest, where do you rank this one? Number 5. 666. A hotel guest called reception to complain that their ocean view room had an ocean in front of it and wanted to know if it could be covered. 66. They found the expanse of open water visually overwhelming. The front desk offered to close the curtains. The guest did not want to close the curtains. They wanted the ocean addressed. 66. We are now firmly in the category of complaints that require not a customer service representative, but a philosopher and possibly a therapist. Number 4. S266. A customer filed a complaint with the fire department because their house had burned down. The complaint was not about the response time. It was not about the conduct of the firefighters. 66. The complaint was that the house, having caught fire, was no longer standing, and they felt this was the fire department's fault for allowing fire to be so destructive in nature. 66. They wanted the fire department to address the behavior of fire broadly, as a substance, going forward. Number 3. S266. A passenger complained to an airline that the flight had landed at the destination they had booked a flight to. They had wanted to go somewhere else. Not a connecting flight issue. 66. Not a rebooking situation. They had purchased a ticket to one city, flown to that city, 666, and then complained upon arrival that they had arrived there, and not somewhere they had not purchased a ticket to go to. The airline reviewed the booking. The booking was correct. 66. The destination was the destination. And yet. Number 2. A customer complained to the electric company that their power bill was caused by their usage of electricity. 66. They disputed the charge on the grounds that they had simply been living in their home, using their appliances, operating their devices. 66. And felt it was unreasonable to be billed for the electricity required to do all of those things. The electricity had come from somewhere. The bill reflected where it had come from. 66. This was not acceptable. It somehow still gets worse, and I'm sorry. Number 1. And here we are. The peak, the summit, the Mount Everest of complaints that should not exist. 666. A customer wrote to a city council to complain about the sunrise. Not the timing, not the brightness on a specific morning. They complained about the concept of the sunrise. 6266. The daily return of the sun to the visible sky, and wanted to know whether the city could look into doing something about it. The letter was 3 paragraphs long. It cited inconvenience. 66. It requested a response. The city responded. The response was, as diplomatically as possible, that the sun was outside their jurisdiction. 66. The customer replied asking for the sun's contact information. That reply is real. It exists. Someone wrote it with their hands and sent it. And there you have it. Sucolorsis says in 66. 44 complaints against reality, filed by people so convinced that the world owed them a different version of itself that they committed the thoughts to writing and expected results. 666. What this list tells us about humanity is not that people are bad. It is that confidence and comprehension do not always travel together. That somewhere between expectation and experience. 66. A certain kind of person looks at the gap and decides it is the universe's problem to close. The ocean is still loud. The bananas are still yellow. 66. The sun has not provided its contact details. And every one of these complaints is still on file somewhere, a permanent record of someone's most confidently wrong moment. So I want to know, S266. Which one do you think is the single most breathtaking entry on this list, and have you ever encountered a complaint in real life that could have made this countdown? Drop it below, S266, because I genuinely need to know what is out there. If this list made you feel a little better about your own relationship with reality, go ahead and give it a like. 666. And if you want more evidence that the world is simultaneously hilarious and deeply concerning, subscribe, because we are only just getting started.